Okay, so my name is Erik Deckers, and I am, among other things, a newspaper humor columnist. And today I wanted to share a few of my past columns that I wrote in 2019 and even in 2020. So here we go. This first one is called Every State's Most Misspelled Words. I was a pretty good speller when I was a kid. I always won my class spelling bee and was the runner-up in the school spelling bee twice, but I never got to the big show. My spelling skills always made me a little impatient with the kids who couldn't, however, especially when they asked the teacher how to spell a word. He or she would say, check the dictionary. And they would say, I can't look it up if I don't know how to spell it. I hated that excuse. They could mostly spell the word, but just had a problem with a couple of letters. How hard was it to figure out the rest? Take the word dictionary. Right off the bat, you know how to start. It starts with a D. It's not a tricky word like mnemonic or wrinkle. Dictionary doesn't start with a silent P. And the letter that makes the short I sound, again, no problem. Now it's just a matter of phonetically spelling the rest of the word and narrowing down your search within said dictionary. What's so hard about that? Nowadays, we not only have spell check on our computers, we have autocorrect on our phones. Our phones literally fix our spelling errors as we text our friends and family, whether we want it to or not. Of course, this leads to some hilarious errors, like when you tell your friends that you're ducking tired of all this shirt. Despite this technology, many of us have words we have trouble spelling. No matter how often we try, we always spell it wrong the first time and then have to look it up. My problem word is embarrassed. I'm never quite sure whenever I write it. Is it embarrassed with one R? Embarrassed with two R's and one S? The little red underlines on my word processor tell me those are wrong, but I only ever get it right a third of the time. To celebrate the recent Scripps National Spelling Bee, Google released a state-by-state breakdown of each state's most misspelled word based on everyone's spelling during a basic search. For example, North Dakota has trouble spelling the word yacht. Florida has trouble with hors d'oeuvres, and New Hampshire can't spell subtle. That's because they're too close to Boston, which is about as subtle as a drunken toddler in a fancy restaurant. That's better than last year, though, when New Hampshire couldn't spell diarrhea, which is one thing you absolutely want to be subtle about. Nevada had trouble with the word probably, as in you're probably going to lose all your money gambling. It's such an optimistic word, but the odds always favor the house, so I can see how you'd get confused right before you lose the mortgage payment. Beautiful was the hardest word for 11 states, including Washington, California, Utah, Arizona, Indiana, and Illinois. That seems weird since many of these states have some of the most beautiful sights in the world. Or you can easily get to them from Illinois. If you've been to Springfield, you know what I'm talking about. Massachusetts also had trouble with the word beautiful, but that's actually an improvement. In 2016, Massachusetts couldn't spell its own name. That's right, the word people from Massachusetts had trouble spelling the most was the place where they lived. It's a tough word to spell, though, not like Wisconsin. In 2017, Wisconsin didn't know how to spell Wisconsin. This year, they were one of the other 11 states that couldn't spell beautiful. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious was a bit of a pickle for 6 states: Oregon, Texas, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, and Georgia. While this is a complicated word that I have never been able to spell, I have a tough time believing that Texas, Michigan, and Ohio had more people who wanted to spell that word over others, like canceled, which gave Oklahoma and Maryland fits. I'm going to have to call BS on canceled with one L, though, because 2 years ago, Google spelled canceled with 2 L's and said it caused problems for Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Maryland, and Virginia. So now I'm thinking Google needs to make a decision about which spelling they prefer, except Delaware can't spell decision. Meanwhile, Alabama had trouble with cousin. I'll let you think about that one a little more. The state of Kansas had trouble with the word consequences, as in there are consequences for state Republicans underfunding your school by $2 billion. One of them is not knowing how to spell the word that means payback is coming in November. I sincerely mean that, although Missouri and Connecticut can't spell that word. I don't blame them, though, because I couldn't spell Connecticut for the longest time. And this year, neither can Maine. People are always going to have problems spelling certain words, whether it's because we're learning it as a new language, because people weren't big readers in school, or maybe even because they just made a simple typo. Or maybe because their state cut funding to their schools so badly they may shut down in 5 years. I'm looking at you, Kansas. This next one is also a Google search. This was a few months later. If you're looking for love, try Google. Apparently, I missed 2 separate stories about some important Google research this past February. One was a state-by-state breakdown of the most frequently asked relationship advice questions, and the other was about top Valentine's Day related gifts and surprises. I combined the results to see if I could find any interesting patterns. Here's what I found. For example, when it came to relationship advice, Arizona searched the most for how to break up. It's such an unfortunate question, and you have to wonder why so many people were asking that question during the month of love. You'll stop wondering when you find their most frequent Valentine's Day search was venereal disease. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone if you wish someone a happy VD in Arizona. Tennessee also searched for venereal disease as its Valentine's Day topic, which made their relationship question a little awkward. Does he love me? I'm guessing the answer is no. Arizona wasn't the only state that wanted to break up. 13 other states wanted to take a weekend trip to Dumpsville, including Alaska, Delaware, Maryland, and Oklahoma. Missouri and South Carolina also searched for how to break up, in addition to poetry. I would love to be a fly on that wall. Roses are red, violets are blue, someone's getting dumped and it's not me. New Mexico's breakup must have happened in January because their question was how to get over a breakup. It sounds rough too because their Valentine's Day search was Red Lobster. I mean, it's no chocolate chip cookie dough, but you can bury a lot of pain with all you can eat scampi. Michigan was kind of cute because they asked, does she love me? And they thought they could sweeten the deal by searching for heart-shaped pizza. Michigan, if she falls for that, hold on to her for the rest of your life because you'll never find anyone better. Finding out your partner's feelings was a common question as other states wanted to know, does he love me and does she love me? This was not an even split though, as 8 states wanted to know if he loves me and only 5 wanted to know if she did. Alabama was one of the 8 to ask, does he love me? They also searched for filet mignon recipe. So Alabama's got a real shot at this. On the other hand, faith and fidelity seem to be a big problem for more than 10% of the country, and 6 states all searched for I cheated on my blank with an even split between girlfriend and boyfriend. Surprisingly, none of the cheating states searched for venereal disease, which, I won't lie, surprised me a lot. Instead, 2 of them, California and Florida, who both cheated on their girlfriend, searched for Friendship Day. Meanwhile, New York and Pennsylvania, who cheated on their girlfriend and boyfriend respectively, both searched for edible arrangements, so at least we have a clue as to how they were cheating. But Georgia and Illinois both cheated on their boyfriend, and each searched for Longhorn Steakhouse and Hooters, and now I don't know what to think. Meanwhile, the Valentine's Day food Indiana and Iowa searched for was Texas Roadhouse, which is about as unromantic as Grandma's meatloaf. We Midwesterners are not known for romance except for Michigan, who's totally rocking with that heart-shaped pizza. Wisconsin is especially bad at Valentine's Day since their search was for dirty Valentines. Dude, if that's your idea of romance, you're going to strike out about as hard as North Carolina, who searched for Golden Corral prices. The only one who's sleeping on the couch tonight, though, is North Dakota, which searched for free e-cards. Geez, North Dakota, even Kentucky's putting a little cash on the line. They at least search for Valentine's Day deals. Maine may nail Valentine's Day, though. They search for How to Kiss and The Bachelor. So way to shoot for the stars there, Maine. In fact, 20% of the country is bad at kissing because 10 states all search for How to Kiss. Montana searched for How to Kiss as well as How to Cook Lobster Tail, so they must feel good about their lobster cooking skills. Personally, I don't think I could eat seafood that far away from the ocean. Hawaii had the right idea, though. They searched for seafood near me, which Google replied with everywhere. You're surrounded by the ocean. But if anyone's going to take the prize for freakiest Valentine's Day, that had to be Oregon, whose relationship question was open relationship, even as they were looking for a cheese fondue recipe, which I'm sure is not at all creepy. Maybe you could hook up with Rhode Island, which also searched for open relationship and steak and BJ Day. This next one is a piece that I wrote this year about Valentine's Day. New Jersey man has not one, but two ghostly girlfriends. Gary DeNoia had some interesting plans for Valentine's Day, and he was going to do something that probably no one else on earth has ever done. He was going to have a three-way sexual tryst with two ghosts. DeNoia, who hails from New Jersey, was recently interviewed by the London Daily Star Online. The official motto, just like the Daily Sun, but less reputable if that's even possible. They asked him about his plans. Gary, who is 35 and works in the hotel industry, has been in a 2-year relationship with a female spirit named Lisa. And they have made plans to introduce another partner into their sex life for a Valentine's Day to remember. Gary's ghost girlfriend definitely beats your junior high Canadian summer girlfriend. Oh, she's dead. You wouldn't know her. In a Daily Star story last October, well, yes, it was on Halloween Day. Why do you ask? Gary said he first started dating Lisa ever since he spotted her across the room of a restaurant while he was having dinner. Well, yes, he was alone. Why do you ask? Gary said he had interacted with spirits before, so he wasn't scared. He started chatting with his new friend, and she asked if his date was running late. I'm dining alone, he said, to no one's surprise. Lisa recommended the risotto and then disappeared. She should have recommended the burrito. So Gary tried the risotto and seemed to enjoy it. The two began spending time together, and Gary has been talking to his invisible friend ever since. Gary and Lisa apparently have a rollicking sex life, which he said is pretty amazing. He also said the connection is much stronger than he's had with a living woman. That can be taken a number of different ways. Gary has introduced Lisa to his close friends who are happy for him, although they can't see her. I also wonder if Gary's friends are equally invisible or if they're actual people. The only thing they tease him about is Lisa's age, because she was 19 when she died. Because it's weird for a 35-year-old man to be dating a 19-year-old dead woman, right? I mean, it's the age difference that's weird, right? Gary hasn't told his coworkers, though, because he's afraid of being discriminated against. I don't see why. She's over the legal age of consent, so what's the problem? Their relationship got serious last spring when she stuffed everything she owned into a book bag and they moved in together. Or more likely, Gary went home like he normally does and absolutely nothing was different. Things picked up for the relationship this past Valentine's Day when Lisa offered to introduce another female spirit, Sadie, into their lovemaking. Gary told the Star, "We both think that going out on Valentine's Day is overpriced and overrated." Seriously? It's not that overpriced. Plus, the restaurant where Gary and Lisa met has been owned by her family for 3 generations, so their meals should be free. Instead of going out, they have a tradition of making popcorn and ice cream sundaes, and then they watch their favorite movie, Ghost. I'm not kidding. I know, we're so corny, said Gary. Yes, corny. That's the word I was thinking of, and no other word at all. Still, this experience was going to be completely new to Gary. I've never had a threesome before, he said, not even with 2 living women. Him being with just 1 living woman is more than I would have guessed, but maybe I'm underestimating them. Won't Lisa be jealous, though? Not at all, said Gary. In fact, it was her idea in the first place. She's confident in the way I feel about her, said Gary. Her only rule is she doesn't want me kissing Sadie, which I am totally okay with. I mean, Gary has spent the last 2 years not kissing real women, so what's one more ghost one? He plans on making the day special, though. To start, he's going to make her breakfast in bed with her favorite French toast. I would have said scream of wheat, but I do love a good piece of French toast, made, of course, with evaporated milk. Gary also likes to leave notes around the apartment for her to find while he's at work, romantic notes, inside jokes, that sort of thing. Basically anything that will make her smile, he said. He can tell she's read them because they're exactly where he left them that morning. If Gary can handle a sexual relationship with 2 women who aren't physically there, more power to him. Most people have a tough time managing one relationship with one real person, but if Gary can manage 2 at the same time, I imagine he'll be very happy. And so will he. And then finally, my last one, I wrote this just a few weeks ago, just as the coronavirus was starting, or we were in our 2nd week of it. So I wanted to read something. It was a current event. How I spent my coronavirus vacation. Thanks to the COVID-19 shutdown, or as I like to call it, the Great Hiatus, my family and I have been practicing social distancing as best we can. We go to the grocery store only when we need to. We only get carry-out from restaurants, and I haven't been to my favorite coffee shops in 2 weeks. However, I still go to work at my regular office, which is a co-working space inside a shopping mall. The mall itself is mostly deserted, with just a few people walking around, even though many of the businesses are closed. The co-working space, NeoWare Studios, is officially closed, although a few of us have keys, which let us raise and lower the security gate at the front of the space. The gate is a transparent, heavy-duty plastic garage door that lets us see people, but unlike the zoo, they can't stick their fingers inside. When we shut it, we have our own private work bubble where people can look in, but they can't actually breathe their germs on us. For the last few days, everyone else has decided to work from home, so I've basked in the luxurious solitude of having an entire 5,500 square foot office to myself. And while I've worked, I've also tried to keep myself amused. So here's a diary of the few of the things I did yesterday. 10:17 a.m. Showed up for work because I'm my own boss and no one can tell me what to do. 10:18. Checked my email to see what my clients wanted me to do. 10:20. What's happening on Facebook? 10:23. Is it lunchtime yet? 10:24. I have to write a few client articles, so I'd better get started. 10:25. What's happening on Facebook? 11:19. Is it lunchtime yet? 12 o'clock noon. One client article done. What's happening on Facebook? 12:08. Peed with the door open. I never get to do this at home. I can do it here since the bathroom is in the back where no one can see. It's a wonderful feeling of freedom. 12:10. Received an email from the NeoWare owners reminding me that they have a video surveillance system installed, and could I please close the door from now on. 12:14. pranced around the empty space singing, "I feel pretty, oh so pretty," at the top of my lungs. A family outside the gate applauds my performance but refuse to slide any money under the door. 12:57, finished another client article. What's happening on Facebook? 1 o'clock, lunchtime finally. I brought a sandwich from home plus a beer. Nothing beats day drinking in the office. 1:30, I need a nap. I probably should have skipped a beer until I got home. We have a couch in the back and I stretched out and fell asleep listening to my favorite Sherlock Holmes podcast. By the way, that's called I Hear of Sherlock Everywhere. If you're interested, ihearofsherlock.com. Little plug for them. 2:17, reenacted the Dancing to Bob Seger scene from Risky Business. I wisely left my pants on. No one needs to see that. 2:30, printed out a sign on the printer. Puppies available for adoption. Pretended to act like an excited puppy whenever anyone walked by. 2:37, received an email from the NeoWare owners. Clean that up. Bad boy. Bad. We do that outside. 3:07, a family tried to adopt me, which was nice, but the little boy looked like an ear puller, so I said no thank you. 3:32, grew bored with being a puppy. Printed a sign that said, "Feed the bear, $10. Whenever someone slid the $10 under the door, I slid back $5 with directions to the Chick-fil-A in the food court. 4:22, I can only eat so many chicken nuggets. Started giving directions to the ice cream place in the food court with specific instructions on how to make a chocolate peanut butter malted milkshake. 4:47, argued with an old lady who says bears don't drink milkshakes. She was rude, so I climbed onto my tiny circus bicycle and rode into the back room. 4:48, ran into the couch on my tiny bicycle. The couch and I have some unfinished business. Nap time again. 5:53, wow, I really must have needed the sleep. Self-isolation or not, I need to quit watching old Baywatch reruns until 2 a.m. Then maybe I wouldn't get to work so late either. No, that can't be it. 6:30, another client article finished. I know it's past normal working hours, but this is what happens when you come into work 2 hours late. Plus, it's not that often I get to have this place to myself. 6:42, text my wife and ask her if I can have a sleepover here. 6:45, apparently grown-ass men do not have sleepovers, and I'm supposed to get my man-child butt back home because it's almost time for dinner. 6:48, I'm leaving only because I want to, not because she told me to. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eric. How how do you come up with your topics that you do the papers that you write for, do they give you direction, or do you just sort of come up with them on your own? How do you
They all give me free reign, and so I just think of a topic. It'll either be something that I have been thinking about. It could be maybe a personal memory, something that I did when I was a kid and I think would be a funny story. Other times it can be current events like the coronavirus, or something. I try to stay away from politics and try to stick with popular culture, but like weird news, stupid news. And then every Thursday night is column night. So Thursday around 7 or 8 o'clock at night, as I've been doing for almost the last 25 years, I have the topic in my head, hopefully, and I've been thinking about some ideas, maybe sketched out a few notes, and then I'll write it as a first draft for the first hour, go away for a couple hours, come back, revise it, go away, polish it up, and by 12:30 or 1, I'm putting the final touches on it, and I'm scheduling it on my blog and emailing it to all my editors.
Very cool. And a lot of the papers that you publish in are you're from Indiana, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
they're all in Indiana.
Right.
I had one in Canada for a little while, so I was international.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to read some of them for us. I think we could all use a little bit of funny right now. So
Good. Thank you.
certainly
I had a
appreciate
good
it.
time.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna hang. Let me